Have you ever noticed how often we learn to swallow frogs as if it were a sign of maturity? As if remaining silent in the face of contempt was proof of strength. But it's not. That's not strength, it's a silent erosion of your dignity. It's like slowly shrinking yourself, trying to fit into spaces that weren't made for you. And the most dangerous? It's just that we get used to it. You start by accepting a destructive criticism here, an emotional manipulation there. And before you know it, you're living a life shaped by the eyes of others. How many times have you felt guilty about something that wasn't even yours? Or have you found yourself trying to please someone who will never approve of you? It corrodes, not all at once, but every day. The contempt that you pretend doesn't affect you leaves marks. And the respect you don't demand disappears even from within you. There comes a time when silence weighs more than any words. And this is where a lot of people break down. But what if I told you there was a way out? That you can, yes, set limits without losing your essence. That you can live with autonomy, with self-respect, and, above all, with integrity. Marcus Aurelius said the best revenge is not to be like your enemy. And that's exactly what we're going to talk about here, about how to maintain your peace even when the world tries to throw you off track. About how not to accept less than you deserve, neither from others nor from yourself. If you've ever felt small, confused, emotionally drained because of someone's actions, this video is for you. Because today, we're going to expose everything that no one has the right to do to you, and most importantly, we're going to show you how to get out of this cycle. Stoic philosophy will be our ally on this journey, with practical, human lessons that work in real life. This is not just any motivational video. It is an invitation to reconstruction, because there are things you can even forgive. But accept again? Never again. Have you ever felt that look that passes through you as if you were invisible? Sometimes the contempt isn't shouted, it's subtle, cold, calculated. And no matter how much we try not to affect ourselves, it touches something deep, our dignity. But Marco Aurelio already warned that the best response is not to return the blow, but not to be like them. This requires a level of emotional control that many people are not willing to develop, but you are. Maintaining serenity in the face of contempt is an act of self-respect. It's not pretending you don't feel it. It's choosing not to react as expected. When someone despises you, they are trying to drag you to the same level of disrespect. And therein lies the trap. If you respond with anger, you lose your reason. If you respond with dignity, you gain strength. True nobility lies in not lowering yourself. How many times have you felt like proving your worth to someone who treated you like nothing? Yes, but this battle never ends well. Those who despise, normally, have already decided not to see. And it's not your job to change anyone's heart. Seneca said that anyone who depends on the approval of others becomes a slave, and no one with dignity was born to live in chains. The secret is to remember who you are, even when others try to diminish you. This is integrity. It doesn't mean being arrogant, but being aware of your value. When you respect yourself, you don't beg for emotional crumbs. Your dignity is not for sale, much less on liquidation. And believe me, there are people who will be upset precisely because you don't bow. Now, if you notice that someone insists on despising you, think, why does that person still have access to your life? There is a difference between being patient and being permissive. The Stoics taught us to distinguish between what we control, and that includes who we let near. Dignity is also knowing how to walk away. You are no one's repository of frustration. But look, don't expect others to recognize your value just because you value yourself. This is a bonus, not a goal. The focus is on you feeling whole when you look in the mirror. Don't confuse humility with self-effacement. A person can be kind and firm at the same time. Saying "I don't accept that" is not rude, it's a sign of emotional maturity. And if at any point you doubt yourself, Remember, your reaction to contempt reveals more about your greatness than any approval from others. Life will continue to test your dignity in small and large situations. The question is, will you conform to disrespect? Or will you become steadfast in the face of it? Have you ever noticed how easy it is to lose control of your own life without realizing it? When we least expect it, we are saying yes out of fear, no out of guilt, and letting others decide for us. Epictetus said that no one is truly free if they are not their own master. And this is not distant philosophy, it is an urgent warning. Autonomy is not a luxury, it is a right that starts with small choices. When you give up deciding for yourself, something inside starts to disappear. It may seem practical to let others choose the path, the partner, the professional direction. But every choice not made is a piece of your identity that goes away. And when you least expect it, you are living a script written by hands that are not yours. Authenticity requires courage to support your yes and also your no. You know that feeling of always trying to please? It is the opposite of freedom. Deciding for yourself is uncomfortable at times, but extremely freeing. And make no mistake, people who want to control you will call you selfish, difficult, even ungrateful. But this says more about their need for control than about their character. Being true to yourself isn't arrogance, it's mental health. If you feel like you're always asking for permission to live, stop now. Start slowly. Choose what you want to eat, where you want to go, who you want to be with. It seems simple, but they are powerful exercises in autonomy. When you start to take the reins, your energy changes, his posture changes, and the world responds differently. People start to respect you more when they realize that you respect yourself. But don't worry, no one is born with full autonomy. It's a process. There will be guilt involved, fear, doubt. You will have people walking away. But guess what? Anyone who is bothered by your freedom has never really been by your side. Marcus Aurelius said that our mind belongs to us, and when we let others think for us, we give up what defines us most. And even when you make a mistake, know it's your mistake. And that's good, because making mistakes in your own decisions is still much better than making mistakes in the lives of others. Seneca remembered that what matters is not what happens, but how we react. And you can't react clearly if everything you do is driven by other people's expectations. You are not a puppet, you are the protagonist. So if today you feel like you live according to others, I leave you a challenge: make a decision that is yours today. It may be small, but it's yours. This is freedom. And do you know the best? The more you practice, the harder it becomes to return to submission. Autonomy, when it awakens, no longer sleeps. Guilt, when it comes from something we actually did, can be educational. But when it is planted, manipulated, or inherited from others, it becomes a poison. Seneca said that guilt lies in consent, that is, it only makes sense if there is real responsibility. And even so, we need to evaluate clearly before embracing it. Otherwise, we carry burdens that are not even ours. How many times have you felt guilty for saying no? For thinking about you? For not living up to other people's expectations? This is unwarranted guilt, sneaky, constant, draining. It disguises itself as conscience, but it is emotional prison. And the worst thing is, the more you blame yourself for no reason, the more others feel free to throw more weight at you. The first thing to understand is that feeling guilty does not necessarily mean being wrong. There are those who use your empathy against you. People who play the role of victim masterfully, just to make you doubt their intentions. Marcus Aurelius would say that our mind needs to be clear so that we can see the truth. And the truth is that not all suffering we feel is legitimate. You don't need to justify yourself all the time, nor explain your choices to those who are not willing to understand. If you act with integrity, with respect, and within your values, then why so much guilt? Of course, self-criticism is useful, but living in a constant state of emotional debt is cruel. And believe me, this eats away at your dignity, little by little. Free yourself from the idea that you need to fix everything and everyone. Epictetus reminds us that there are things beyond our control, and that includes the emotions and reactions of others. You can do everything right, and someone will still be offended. The question is, will you live trying to fit into unattainable standards, or will you seek your inner peace? If you want to free yourself from unwarranted guilt, start by asking yourself, is this really up to me? And am I being fair to myself? Write these questions on paper. Reread it whenever you feel that weight in your chest. A clear conscience is silent. Unjust guilt screams and needs to be silenced with truth, not with submission. And when you understand all this, you will realize that guilt can no longer control you. You will still make mistakes, of course. We all make mistakes. But now with more discernment, more autonomy, more self-love. The guilt you accept defines the size of your freedom. And no one with purpose should live in debt for what they didn't do. Lies may seem harmless at first, but they always have a price, and it's usually a high one. Epictetus said that only those who admit that they don't know learn. In other words, truth is the starting point of any real growth. Dishonesty. It paralyzes. Whether lying to yourself or being deceived by others, the effect is always the same distortion of reality. It's common to hear, "Oh, it's just a white lie." But there is no lie that does not affect the bond between people. Trust, when broken, rarely returns to its original state. And worse, when you accept being deceived repeatedly, you begin to doubt even what is real. This undermines your perception and makes you vulnerable to manipulation. The lie feeds on your omission. Do you know when someone pretends to be something they are not, just to please or win over? This is quiet but dangerous dishonesty. Marcus Aurelius warned that living falsely is wasting the gift of time and conscience. When you get used to masks, the truth is scary. And living in fear of the truth is the same as not truly living. Honesty begins in the mirror. Admit what you feel, what you want, what needs to change. It may be uncomfortable at first, but it is liberating. And look, there is nothing more worthy than being honest, even when no one is looking. Integrity does not need an audience. She is silent, firm, and often lonely. But it is what sustains your peace. It is also necessary to be aware of emotional dishonesty when someone hides intentions, distorts facts, or manipulates their guilt to gain an advantage. Seneca said that an honest man lives in peace with his conscience. The dishonest, on the other hand, lives at war, even when he appears to be smiling. Distrusting what is inconsistent is an act of self-love. Want a practical exercise? The next time you feel doubtful about someone, pay attention to their actions rather than their words. Empty promises, sudden changes, recurring omissions. These are all signs. And if you find yourself lying to yourself just to keep someone close, know this is the most dangerous betrayal of all, the one you commit against yourself. In the end, the truth can hurt, but the lie destroys. You deserve clean relationships, conscious decisions, relationships without games. Don't accept dishonesty as part of normal. It may be common, but it will never be healthy. And remembering this already puts you steps ahead of those who still live in illusion. Everyone has a point where they need to say enough is enough. The problem is that many people ignore this limit to avoid appearing rude, ungrateful, or difficult. But, as Marcus Aurelius said, respect begins with oneself. If you don't establish clear boundaries, the world steps on you without blame. And the worst part, it starts to seem normal. But it's not. Saying no is an act of courage. You are not obliged to accept invitations that exhaust, conversations that hurt, or demands that drain. Your limits don't make you weak, they make you human. And more, they make you someone with integrity. It's not selfish to protect yourself. It's emotional survival. and that needs to be a priority. Epictetus reminds us that we do not control others, but we control our responses. This includes the right to stay away from anyone who crosses your boundaries. And it doesn't have to be a fight or a dramatic speech. Sometimes silence, retreat, absence is enough. Quiet firmness speaks louder than 1,000 justifications. Have you ever noticed how some people test their limits just to see how far they can go? And the more you give in, the more they invade. It saps your energy, your patience, and your health. Setting limits doesn't keep the right people away. It drives away those who just wanted to benefit from its lack of barriers. And that is a blessing in disguise. Want a practical example? Create a list of 3 things you no longer accept. It could be constant interruptions, disrespectful demands, or even physical touching without consent. Reread this list every time someone tries to cross the line. This will help you remember that your dignity is worth more than any approval. Seneca said that a wise man lives in harmony with his nature, and you weren't made to live crushed by the wishes of others. Learning to position yourself is a process. It starts with discomfort and ends with relief. And little by little, your surroundings will adjust to the new version of you, more conscious, firmer, lighter. At the end of the day, whoever respects your limits respects you, and whoever insists on surpassing them may never have really seen you. Don't fear losing anyone who doesn't respect your contours, because the only real loss is abandoning yourself to keep someone else. And no relationship is worth that. Seneca was direct. It's not that we have little time, it's that we waste a lot. And he was right. How many hours have you wasted on empty conversations, tasks that don't add up, and worries that weren't even yours? Time is the most precious asset there is, and the only one that, once spent, never comes back. Wasting it is devaluing life itself. We keep postponing what matters, always waiting for the right moment, the holidays, when there is time left. But there's no time left. It needs to be taken back with awareness. And believe me, the world will offer you 1,000 distractions: social media, other people's dramas, urgent but irrelevant demands. It's up to you to choose what's really worth it. Epictetus said that we should take care of our soul more than our body. And that includes choosing where we place our attention. What you consume mentally defines your energy, your emotions, your actions. If you give your time to negativity and noise, don't expect to reap peace and clarity. Focus is the filter of your freedom. Have you ever stopped to think about the time you spend trying to please people who don't even care? Or dwelling on past mistakes? This too is waste: emotional, mental, vital. Marcus Aurelius remembered that each day is a life in miniature. How have you been living yours? With purpose? Or by inertia? Want a practical step? Make a list of everything you do in a day. Then mark what really brings you closer to the life you want. Whatever is left, rethink. This isn't about becoming a productive robot. It's about living with intention. When you value time, you begin to live with more presence, more truth, more integrity. Also, be careful with those who suck up your time. There are people who show up just to vent problems, demand attention, or control your agenda. Remember, you are not a public agenda. Set limits, say no, and watch how everything around you reorganizes itself. Dignity is also measured by how you protect your time. And if today you feel like you wasted a lot of time in the past, breathe. It's still possible to change. The awareness now is a new beginning. Use every minute from now on as a vow of self-love. Time is life, and no one should live throwing their life away for fear of displeasure or lack of direction. Have you ever noticed how some criticism seems more like poison than advice? Marcus Aurelius said that we should seek the truth, but that it should never come dressed in gratuitous aggression. Constructive criticism makes you grow, but destructive criticism only hurts you. And the cruelest thing is that they are often disguised as sincerity. Not everything that is direct is useful. The first thing you need to know is not every criticism deserves a response. Some don't even deserve space in your mind. Epictetus taught us to differentiate between what is under our control and absorbing all other people's opinions as if it were law. It's not. When someone criticizes you without empathy, without knowing your background, the problem is more theirs than yours. You know that type of person who criticizes just to feel superior? It's usually someone who can't deal with their own frustrations. Criticism becomes a way of trying to diminish others to feel bigger. And this is where the importance of emotional control comes in, not falling for provocation. Dignity is also keeping silent when noise is useless. Now, of course, there are criticisms that deserve attention. Sometimes it hurts to hear, but it makes sense. The difference is in tone, context, and intention. Seneca said that a wise man loves the truth, even when it bothers him. But he also knows how to recognize when someone is just trying to hurt. Knowing how to filter is one of the greatest skills of maturity. Want a simple exercise? When you hear criticism, ask yourself, does it help me grow or does it paralyze me? Was it said with empathy or contempt? Does it come from someone who knows me or someone who just judges me? These questions act as a shield, and little by little, you stop absorbing everything as absolute truth. Also important, beware of destructive self-criticism. Sometimes your worst critic lives within you, and this is the hardest to silence, but it needs to be faced with the same firmness you would with a stranger. Treat yourself with more empathy. You already have the world demanding you all the time. You don't need to torture yourself either. In the end, criticism will always exist. Some will shape you, others you should simply ignore. The secret is to know who you are. When your identity is well defined, the opinions of others lose the power to bring you down. Criticism shouldn't define your direction at most. It can adjust your pace, and only when they make sense. Few things hurt as much as being treated coldly when all you needed was a little comfort. The lack of empathy hurts because it dehumanizes. Seneca said, wherever there is a human being, there is an opportunity for goodness. And when this opportunity is ignored, something breaks in the relationship, in trust, in affection. Indifference often hurts more than harsh words. It's common to live with people who act as if feelings were weaknesses. People who call you too sensitive, who invalidate your pain with ready-made phrases. And the worst? You start to believe. Keep silent about what you feel to avoid judgment. But Epictetus reminds us suffering is real when we believe in it, and feeling is not a mistake. It is human. Empathy is not guesswork, it is a willingness to listen with an open heart. If someone never asks you, how are you really? Maybe they're not really there. Marcus Aurelius valued dialogue with serenity. And there is no true dialogue where there is no space for the other to exist fully, with pain, doubt, joy, or fear. Now, be careful. Demanding empathy from those who don't know how to offer it is like expecting a harvest on dry soil. You can try, explain, insist. But there comes a time when it gets tired. And that's okay. Preserving your emotional health is also an act of empathy with yourself. And sometimes, loving from afar is the most honest way to not lose yourself trying to save those who don't want to change. Want to strengthen your own empathy? Start listening more. Not to respond, but to understand. Avoid interrupting. Ask more. Notice between the lines. Empathy is born when you stop trying to win a conversation and start wanting to understand a world that is not just yours. And when this becomes a habit, your presence becomes healing. It's also important to remember you deserve reciprocity. Being understanding does not mean accepting emotional crumbs. Unbalanced relationships, where only one side listens, welcomes, and understands, are not healthy. Support must be a two-way street. Otherwise, it becomes exhaustion disguised as affection. Ultimately, Empathy is the foundation of true relationships. Where there is empathy, there is safe space. Where there is none, everything turns into demands, noise, and misunderstandings. And you are not here to live shallow or disrespectful relationships. The kindness you offer deserves a place to flourish, and never ever be ignored. There are people who enter a room and seem to turn off the light. Constant negativity is like an emotional leak silent, but over time, it sinks even the strongest. Epictetus said that it is not the facts that disturb us, but the way we interpret them. And there are people who choose to always see the world through the lens of tragedy. The question is, are you going to board this leaky boat? Being around negative people every day is like breathing polluted air. Little by little, this intoxicates your energy, your ideas, your desire to live lightly. Marcus Aurelius reminds us that the quality of our thoughts defines the quality of our life. In other words, living surrounded by pessimism is living suffocated even with the blue sky outside. Have you ever noticed how negative people have an amazing ability to find the problem in everything? They drain any enthusiasm with a simple, but that won't work. And they often do this under the guise of realism. But be careful, not all realism is wisdom. Sometimes it's just fear dressed up as logic. Want a practical exercise? Observe your conversations from the last few days. How much time did you spend complaining, judging, or absorbing other people's drama? Now reverse it, start practicing the antidote: gratitude, silence, focusing on what can be done. It's not toxic positivity, it's clarity. It's the conscious choice not to be the sponge for other people's chaos. Seneca said that a truly free man is one who controls his emotions. And living in constant negativity is giving up that dominance. You become reactive, irritable, always on the defensive. Little by little, you begin to get used to the weight. And then, forget what it was like to live lightly. Also beware of self-negativity. That inner voice that says you can't do it, nothing will work, it's better not to even try. This voice needs to be challenged with truth. Ask yourself, is this fact or just fear? This simple question dispels many ghosts, and it puts you back in charge of your mind. You can't stop negativity from existing in the world, but you can choose whether it lives in your mental house. Create inspiring environments. Listen to things that uplift you. Read authors that teach you how to see the world in more depth. Because, in the end, life is made up of what you decide to feed. And negativity no longer deserves its food. Emotional manipulation is subtle. Sometimes it comes in the form of guilt, other times as blackmail disguised as affection. And when you realize it, you're already wondering if it was your mistake. Marcus Aurelius said that happiness depends on the quality of our thoughts, and no one can think clearly if they are constantly manipulated. It's like living in a theater where the script is never yours. There are people who only feel safe when they see you insecure. That creates guilt to have control. Who says you hurt me when, in fact, he's just trying to make you give in? That's not love. That's not care, that's control. And Epictetus teaches whoever dominates his own feelings is not dominated by those of others. This is emotional freedom. When you start saying no and taking a stand, manipulators get upset. They come with phrases like, after everything I did for you, or you've changed a lot. Of course it changed. Grew up. He gained consciousness. And anyone who benefits from your confusion will not like your clarity. But this is a sign of progress, not error. Manipulation also happens when you are made the villain of simply taking care of yourself. And that hurts, because it seems like there are only two options: give in or be rejected. But the truth is that there is a third way, that of self-respect. Seneca said that integrity is the only good that cannot be taken away from you. And protecting your peace is part of that integrity. Want a practical step? The next time someone makes you feel bad about a choice that doesn't hurt anyone, take a deep breath and ask yourself, Is this fair to me? If not, don't accept it. Not with tears, not with screams, not with passive silence. You don't have to live putting out other people's emotional fires at the expense of your balance. Another trap of manipulation is the cycle of confusion. Sometimes they praise, sometimes they attack. This creates emotional dependence. You never know where you are stepping, and you start to live on alert. This psychological game gradually destroys self-esteem. It's like walking on a rickety bridge. You're tense all the time. And no one can live like this for long. In the end, emotional manipulation is not affection, it is dominance. Real love frees, it doesn't bind. Take care, but don't suffocate. If you need to shrink yourself to fit into someone's life, maybe the problem is with the mold, not you. The self-control that the Stoics valued so much begins when you say, "My feelings are my own, and no one else will use them against me." Living under the critical gaze of others is like trying to walk with a mirror on your back. You move, but you can't move forward. Seneca said that it is useless to seek approval from someone who does not respect you. And even knowing this, many still bow down to looks and comments that do nothing. Constant disapproval is a subtle poison. It undermines your confidence from the inside out. Have you ever noticed how some people never recognize your efforts, but are quick to point out any flaws? They live as inspectors of their existence, waiting for the slightest mistake to say, "I told you so." These types of people don't want your growth, they want your stagnation. And the worst thing is that, over time, you start to doubt even your own victories. Epictetus teaches that what does not depend on us should not disturb us. And the opinions of others, no matter how noisy it may seem, have never been under your control. Therefore, trying to live to please everyone is a sure recipe for frustration. The more you seek external acceptance, the further you move away from your internal authenticity. And the bill always arrives. Of course, it's natural to want to be recognized. We are social beings. But there is a huge difference between seeking respect and living for approval. When you shape your decisions just to avoid criticism, you lose autonomy. Marcus Aurelius said, "If it's right, do it. If it's not, don't do it." Just like that. The compass has to come from within. Want a practical tip? Whenever you feel paralyzed by fear of judgment, ask, "Will this matter in 5 years?" Most of the time, the answer is no. Most criticism comes from people who won't even be in your life in 5 months. So why is so much power given to the opinion of those who barely know their history? Another important point: people who are constantly criticizing are often frustrated with themselves. It's easier to point the finger than face the mirror. Knowing this does not invalidate the pain they cause, but it helps you put the impact into perspective. You don't need to harden yourself. You just need to shield yourself. Self-awareness is the most effective armor. In the end, what sustains you is not other people's acceptance, it is genuine support, self-respect, and the clarity of being on the right path. The criticism that doesn't build you, you return to the universe with silence and composure. And it follows, because those who live to please the crowd forget who they are when they are alone. Few things hurt as much as facing a difficult moment and realizing that whoever you were waiting for just isn't there. It's like shouting and hearing the echo back. Epictetus teaches us that we do not control circumstances, but rather how we react to them. And the absence of support reveals more about others than it does about you. But still, it hurts. And it's okay to admit that. Many strong people learn to be like this by force, in absence, not by choice, but by survival. Growing up without support teaches you to stand on your own 2 feet, but sometimes, all you want is someone to hold your hand. Seneca said that we were not born just for ourselves. And that's exactly it. Support should be natural, not an exception. When you realize that you are always giving, always listening, always present, and almost never getting the same back, something breaks. the exchange becomes an imbalance. And then, even surrounded by people, you feel alone. Marcus Aurelius remembered that the human soul is strengthened by the truth. And the truth is, you deserve to be supported not just when it's helpful, but always. But be careful, true support is not flattery, nor presence at convenient times. It's that person who asks how you are and listens carefully, that calls you back to yourself when you lose yourself, who welcomes you without judging you. Support doesn't have to be constant, it needs to be real. And when it is, it changes everything. Want practical action? Observe who is on your side when you have nothing to offer other than sincerity. This is your base. And if she's small, that's okay. The important thing is that it is solid. Silent and firm support is better than 1,000 empty words on festive days. And remember, you deserve rest too. Being strong does not force you to be alone. The opposite exercise is also valid. Have you been supporting those who need it? Sometimes, what the world lacks is people who truly listen. Empathy is a two-way street. And by practicing it, you attract healthier relationships. Relationships where there is reciprocity, where affection does not turn into debt, where existing is not a burden, it is welcome. In the end, the lack of support teaches us something valuable: the importance of supporting ourselves too. To build within yourself a shelter that does not depend on other people's seasons, and still seek without guilt networks that support, because no one grows alone. And recognizing that you need support is one of the most beautiful forms of dignity. And we talked. Tell me something honestly, what have you accepted that you should have already left behind? Sometimes, life pushes us into an automatic mode where everything becomes habitual, even what hurts. But now you know. You no longer need to accept contempt as if it were normal, nor live controlled by guilt or fear of disapproval. You learned, with the help of Marcus Aurelius, Epictetus, and Seneca, that dignity, respect, and autonomy are not luxury. They are base. They are your right. And, above all, your responsibility. Because no one will fight for your peace if you don't decide to protect it. If you don't set limits, the world won't stop for you. So think, which of these points touched your reality the most? In what area of your life do you need to start acting more firmly, more truthfully, more emotionally controlled? Maybe it's at work. Maybe in a relationship. Maybe with yourself. Wherever it is, one thing is certain: the time has come to stop accepting less than you deserve. And if this content made sense to you, leave your mark here. Subscribe to the channel, turn on notifications, and comment below the word that represented you most today. It could be freedom, limits, autonomy, or anything else that reflects this new moment. Because it's not just a video, it's a turning point. And you deserve to live with lightness, integrity, and personal power.